one thing I want to start with that just came to me, actually, it's not even in my notes. There was, I think MIT did this experiment just recently where they were going to do a red balloon release across the world. And they released 8 red balloons across the globe. And they wanted to find out from social media how fast those balloons would be located. And it was like, what? You look like you know what I'm talking about. You haven't heard this one?
No, I'm just really interested.
I want to say it was like 6 hours. All 8 balloons were found globally. These red balloons, and it was a system of people. The team that found them, it was a team of people who all knew that this was going to come up, and so they organized themselves through social media. So when the balloons were released, they just had this huge organization that just, and they had the information within hours where it was going to be. I mean, like all over the globe. That's crazy. So, but that's not what I was going to start out with. So I want to read to you a few words. Standards, productivity, scores, I need to come over here, efficiency, competition, and individual. These are ideas. These are the dominant ideology. And Howard Glasser, are you familiar with Howard Glasser? Some of you? Howard Glasser has written a lot of books. He was a psychotherapist and started studying teaching and education. And I can't even remember what they're called now, the quality school, the choice teacher, those kinds of things, the choice theory. So Howard Glasser writes about how students are constantly receiving these implicit messages from their system, whether there's success or a failure. And that's their message. And then, and it's constant, right? And it's based on these words: standards, productivity, efficiency, compliance isn't in there, but so then think about the students. Think about the students that we have. We have males who are not performing like females. We have students of color who are not performing like white kids. We have students from poverty who are not going to get the same kind of education as students from affluence. And we have drug students for compliance. And we have students, if they're spirited or creative, they're not going to do well. So, and then we have this kids with disabilities. And so now, from a business model, most of our students, the majority of our students, are defective products. So, and what does the U.S. usually do with defective products? We throw it in the trash, or we ship it to a third world country. Right? So the current system, it aims, even if it's not a conscious structural decision, to me, it seems to aim to produce personnel, and I'm sure if you guys have hung out with me this weekend, you've already heard me say these things, but personnel who create profit and economic competitive viability. And that is also our current measure of success. And so that's the banking system, the business system is coming down into our classrooms. And I call it corporate model education, and I think it's toxic, but different paper. So now I want to read to you some other words. Authenticity, freedom, passion, service, growth, experience, transformative, repose, honesty, inspiration, mentors, community, civic, sense of belonging, sense of mastery, collective intelligence, social sensitivity. Those are words that would come from more of a humanistic education ideology. And the students that we have, our 21st century students, I'm sure you've all heard the 21st century skills. So our 21st century students, they're offering the education system an unprecedented challenge. Our education system has never had students who think this fast, who go this fast, who are this stimulated, who are so connected. You've talked about how you're trying to teach, and kids are looking up information. kids literally, all of us, not kids, we have at our fingertips within seconds any bit of information we want. And so the teacher no longer, the role, not that it was ever supposed to be, but the role of a teacher can't be just imposing knowledge and organizational order, because that's not what they need anymore. They don't need to come to you for knowledge. Their knowledge can be found in so many places and so quick. And so a teacher, I think, has to find a way, I actually wrote it down, find a way to get kids engaged in a personal learning process. And they also need to be able to be informed consumers of knowledge. That's what I call it. And they're going to have to be skilled at communicating in a global world. So, and all of this comes back into the classroom, and it's not addressed. It's all pretty implicit in a way. You know, we're all really focused on skills, or testable skills. And all of this can be testable, but Nell Noddings brings in the idea, she writes about this, bringing the sacred back into teaching. And she talks about, I think it was called in the Happiness in Education book. She talks about how sacred is something that we would, it would be enriching and offer lifelong happiness. And so as a society, we would preserve it. So Zoe Weil, I'm not sure how she pronounces it. She is the president of the Institute for Humane Education, and she did a presentation on TED Talks. And if you haven't heard of TED Talks, this is another digital awesomeness. All you type in is TED.com, and it's just amazing. I can get lost in that for hours. And they give, it's like all these great thinkers are giving conferences. They're about 20-minute presentations, and it's free to you. 15. Huh? 15? Yeah. And so they're, anyway, she gave this presentation about, it was called, "The World Becomes What You Teach." And she has this idea of, instead of having, or not instead of, because we're not going to, nix anything probably that's popular, but in addition to having debate teams, she has the idea of having solutionary teams. Isn't that something? And so her solutionary teams could go to competitions. They could be presented with, and they're not hers, but this idea, they could be presented with local issues or global issues. It could be, going all over the place. I've tried to play it out in my head a couple times. So what I want to do here is see if I can make it work in a group, and just because I don't really feel like I can say, oh, well, here's some great activities for being solutionaries if I'm not even in a classroom anymore. And so here you are, and we get to try it out. And if it works well, you get to take it home with you and use it with your students. And if it doesn't, you get to tweak it and help me figure out how to make it better. Because I really think that this is a great idea. I think if it's something that could become a movement, it would be really powerful.